welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show, where we're going to continue our journey into the craft of being a professional comedian. I'm pleased to have, once again on the show, local talent, professionals at their craft, Stratton Smith and Val Werner. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Thanks, Andre.
Thanks for having us.
So let's get right down to it, because I had so many questions. I say, look, we got to do a part 2 to this. And first of all, I'd like to thank both of you guys for coming on and sharing your journey into the field. But either one of you guys can answer these questions, so we'll just call it the question and answer. I'm going into the mind of the viewers. What's it like to be a comedian? Either one. You're on the clock.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's I don't know. It's hard. I feel like it took a while for me to identify as a comedian. I don't know if you can relate with that.
Yeah.
I've been using like humor as a coping mechanism my whole life. But then like saying like I'm a professional comedian, sometimes it depends on the day. But then it's like you get paid every now and then. But
When you say using it as a coping mechanism,
Yeah.
explain to the viewers a little bit about that, because I'm not an entertainer. I'm not even going to call you comedians. I'm going to call you entertainers, because that's basically what you are to me as entertainers. But you said you use yours as a coping mechanism. Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like when people share like their traumas with you or their heart upbringings, anything like that, my mind just kind of does a trick to itself. It's like, hey, where can you find the humor in that? And I learned that from a very like early age, being like the youngest child. Like humor was like that was the characteristic I'm going with. But then you notice like, hey, you make people laugh at these things that people usually cry about or they groan about. And all of a sudden you have like this openness like with them, and I've just always been attracted to that from like a really like young age.
What
Yeah.
you say the same thing?
You know, I think it is. We've seen each other perform, right?
Yeah.
It's you do have like sometimes a dark humor, and I think it is taking that trauma or things over. I pay attention to the world constantly, and I look for the funny stories or the funny things that I've seen, and I turn that into the comedy plus things that have happened in my life. But
When you say you just focus on something, how engaged are you guys in general when you see each other and into other comedians that come on before? Like you just mentioned something, and why did you say that? He has a little bit more of a dark side. Why did you come up with that analogy?
Well, mostly because I've seen his set. I've seen his performance. And just hearing him talk about, like, he's using it as a coping mechanism, you can really see that in Stratton's comedy. So I think that's why I mentioned it. But we see each other. I mean, there's, in a comedy community like ours, we have places where we go practice, right? And that could be like an open mic. And that's could be a nurturing environment where you go try stuff for the first time. And I call it JV football practice for comedians.
Do you guys give each other?
Yeah.
Do you guys give each other constructive criticism, or is that taboo to when you're looking at another comedian?
Well, I can only speak for myself, right? I try not to give unsolicited advice. If a comedian comes to me and says, "What did you think? Can you give me some feedback?" I'll do that. And but I rarely give unsolicited advice. And
Why? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know why. I think it's because when it's happened to me, I haven't liked it. Like I wasn't in a mindset to take criticism.
Really?
You know what I'm saying?
How do you perfect it? Perfect your
No,
game?
no, I am, but I mean, like, you just get off stage. That's not the time for me to come up to me and be like, I just need a few minutes to digest it myself. Like, my brain is too full to take it. But I'm always looking for people to give me feedback.
What if I'm watching your set and you sucked?
Yeah.
And I come up to you and say, "Man, I wasted $30 on this ticket, man. You sucked." Is there times where you know that you sucked and that criticism was noteworthy?
Oh, yeah.
You know every time that you sucked.
How's that?
And honestly, you can have like a really good set and you still think you sucked.
Yeah.
I think comics, and I'm thinking broadly, but then I think we're really hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we have really good shows where we like murder and everything's great. We have jokes and sets that fall real short. But I think you're always like chasing like that.
What happens when
really
you know
show.
you suck and I come up to you and I say, "Man, you fucking sucked"?
It's
What do you do?
You know, I've had nothing but good. Not to say because it was me, but like I don't think people would go out of their way to do that. But I think
You don't know me.
Yeah, I know.
People don't do that as much as you would think. Yeah.
People really don't do that as much, and I think I've only been heckled once. You know,
Really?
I don't even remember what it was about, and I was probably making fun of white guys, and a white guy took offense to that. But no, I've just never really had that. I have had other comedians. And like I said, they'll say, hey, do you want some criticism? And then I'll be like, yes. Or if I'm not ready for it, then I'll say, hey, catch me later. I'd love to hear it, but catch me later.
Well, how do you learn and grow? You know, like, if you're bad. And the whole idea, like, you know, Stratton said, was growth and development. Like, I would think it's cool for another comedian coming to me and tell me, hey, man, you might want to work on this.
Yeah.
You know, yada, yada, yada.
I think it depends what your relationship with that specific comic is. It's like if it is a person that I know really well and it's been somebody that I've been in the scene with for a little while, I will accept whatever they have to say. If it's some guy that's going up to every comic after the show saying like, hey, if you just did this with this joke and everything, I don't know your intent. I don't know what your ego is. Comics, there's usually a lot of big egos in the room.
Really?
There's a lot of big egos in the room, I would say. But then you find people that are like really down to earth, and I think I've met some really, really great people that have a lot of good intentions and are there because they like love comedy and they love like working on their craft. Yeah. But then you get a lot of people that are there for like different motives and everything like that. So if I get like a note from anybody, I'll probably stick it in my back head. But then if I get a note from like somebody that I've been like Terry Shepard, if he gives me a note, I'll listen to it every time.
Yeah. You build your own community inside the community, and you have people that you go to say, hey, you just saw me, what'd you think, right? And I think that's how you get feedback from your own little community inside the community.
How do you guys read the crowd? You said you got heckled. How do you overcome that?
How do you read the crowd? Like, I know everybody does this so differently. I do go and I look at the crowd and be like, oh, it's all white people, huh? Okay, I'm going to talk about my mom because they love it when I talk about agent. And if it's all young people, then I might talk about like marijuana or things like that. So that's how I read the audience. But if you read the audience, like, I got nothing. I got nothing. These may not be my people, you know, then sometimes I have to wing it and
Really?
just jumble up. Because in your brain, you have a file.
What if I'm in the VIP front row? Are you watching me? Who are you getting your vibes from? Because are you looking out, or are you looking at the people that paid the money for these seats?
I feel like when I get there, everybody is kind of like fair game. The people in the front row, like,
Really? I don't, because I paid a lot of money being in that front row.
Ooh, what I will say is I had a show at Hoppy Wobbles, and there was one guy that just was... He gave like great Mormon energy. He's like talking to every single performer and everything like that.
Right.
So then I'm listening to what his interactions are with the people before. I need an opener to come up with and get some trust from the audience. I'm going to talk to that guy because he's been a part of the show going back and forth.
Okay. So you guys, that's how you read the crowd.
Well, and you do do more crowd work.
I do.
Yeah, and I don't. And I know a lot of people who do crowd work. And they'll look for, if they want to do a joke about the tallest guy in the room, they got to find the tallest guy in the room, right? So they'll scan the room for who they want to talk about. But I don't do crowd work, so.
What happens if the tallest guy in the room don't want to be the centerpiece? Then what happens? Then what do you guys do?
That's comedy, baby.
that's show business right there. You don't know what's going to happen when you do crowd work.
What's the hardest thing that you had to overcome being in this industry?
I took a class to become a comedian, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought that open mics in the community were going to be like class. I really did. So the first few months I thought, we're just going to go to these open mics and it's going to be this, like we talked about, give and take, where people say, you can do this better, whatever. And it wasn't like that. And it really was just people out there doing the best they can to improve their craft, but not necessarily here to help you know what I mean? They're there for each other.
Yeah.
But
what were you looking for when you walked in there that you didn't get?
What I really thought would be, I had stupid expectations. I was uneducated, right? I thought there'd be more people. So
We're both laughing because
comedians are laughing. I thought there'd be people, not just comedians. Like I thought there'd be an audience. And I had stupid expectations, so I didn't bother to educate myself.
What would you want it to be like if you walked in?
As a new comedian.
Yeah. What did you want? What would you like to see happen?
I don't know if it should be different. I'm not saying it should be. I'm just saying you have a different mindset.
Right.
And I think that was the hardest thing for me to overcome. In fact, after a month, I just stopped going to mics for like 6 months because I started reading interviews with comedians about what it was like for them when they first started. I read some books and I thought now that I've reset my expectations, then now I can go back and actually learn from all these comedians and be productive.
What was it like for you?
Yeah, well, then kind of piggybacking on that, I grew up like in love with, the biggest stand-up comedy geek that you'll ever meet, and you hear all these stories about people, like I came up at like this store and I was here with them, I was here with Eddie Murphy, I was here with Chris Rock, all these guys, they would pop in through, and so you're like, oh, well, that would be cool, like to see all these like new faces, and then everybody's coming in. They're talking about like the Comedy Store. They're in LA and New York. We are in Indianapolis, where there's not like all these like big major talents coming in. So then you're getting like local comedians, and an average open mic will be like 12 comics talking to 12 comics, and there's not really like any locals that are coming in to watch open mic comedy.
What's the problem here that we're not getting? I saw D.L. Hughley and I can't think of the other lady name that lives up in Chicago. I mean, why aren't we driving those big names here?
Well, I think when we're talking about becoming a comedian and the comedy scene, that there's, like we said, the mics that we're talking about, that's our JV football practice. You're not meant to have an audience there. You're there to practice, and thank God nobody's going to see you screw up.
Honestly, thank God nobody's there.
That's what I'm saying is I thought there'd be an audience, but in reality, there really shouldn't be an audience at some of these mics because you're there to practice. And some of them do have audiences, and that's the mics where I go a little bit more prepared, right? And that's great. But then you've got places that host shows, like, the big clubs, and then places that host showcases like Fountain Square or Hobby Wobbles. That is where they do get they have great names that come through, Helium and Crackers. They have really good regional comics that come through these other clubs. So I don't know if those are two separate things. Like, it's just in our smaller community where we're all learning and growing. That's where it's just us there. And that's probably how, for some of them, that's how it should be.
What major headliners have you guys been on stage with?
None.
Really? Who do you want to be on there with? If you had two people, let's start with you first, ladies first. You had two people that you want to be on there with. Who is it and why?
Well, my favorite comedians are Joe Coy and Ali Wong. I love both of them because of what they talk about. But if I could be an opener or a feature for a comedian, I'd probably pick one of our bigger local ones like Alex Price.
Why?
Because he knows me. And if I got to open for him, he is somebody I could go and say, what could I have done better and how could I have learned? So I'd want to open for somebody that I think I could actually, I have a relationship with, I could learn from. But I think when opening for a big name, I think I'd be so starstruck. I'd be afraid I wouldn't do a good job, Yeah. But,
what about you?
Well, we were talking about it. I'm really happy I haven't opened up for a big headliner or anything like that at this point, because I don't know what I would do with that information. I think I'd still be in my starstruck and not like hey, what can I do? But I think if I had to open for anybody, I'd love to open up for Jeselnik. Anthony Jeselnik is one of my heavy hitters. But it was funny because I had my comedy special, Child of Divorce, and I had an amazing opener, David Brooks, who is one of the big top dogs in the indie comics. The next weekend, he opened up for Anthony Jeselnik, who is my mecca in comedy writing. Right. And so I'm that far away, not because of me, because of David work and the fantastic work he's doing, but I'm you're not as far from your dreams as you think, kind of thing.
When somebody's trying to get into this field, what are some of the difficult avenues and terms that they have to deal with that you guys had to deal with?
Oh gosh, I think it is because it is a tight knit community, and really just learning how to. For me, it was going from an engineer to being a comic, right? So I would say that first month, I was still in that very much in an engineer mind, where you try not to be as emotive, and you're just studious, right? And then I think when I came back, I was like, I can actually be who I am, which is an outrageous extrovert, right?
Yeah.
And so I think to me is like how to just learn how to be myself in this scene of really strong personalities. That was hard. That was one I think was hard for me. I think the other one was really, finding friends and meeting people, and that's really how you grow as a comedian. Is you learn from other comedians, and then your friends will book you on shows, and then when somebody else sees you on a show, then they'll book you. And
A serious network.
yeah, it's like, how do you begin? It's like, how do you even begin? And when you get that first show where they're actually paying you money to be there, you suddenly feel that weight of responsibility of like, I was like, people are paying to see me, I better do a really good job.
What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, no, it's the same thing. That weight of responsibility whenever you're like, oh, I'm getting paid for a show, because a lot of times you have to wait a while before you get to that point. But I don't know. I think my biggest thing was I think just belonging and fitting in, because I did something that was unique. I come from an improv background, so then I've been performing for like 3 years, and then I get into stand-up. 2 years in, I say, you know what, I'm going to take a big swing. I'm going to have a comedy special. I've been working really hard for this, and I told everybody about it. I got a lot of support from like friends, family, fans. Comics did not support me that much. And
How did that make you feel?
it definitely, my biggest like spiritual gift that I have in this life is reading energy. And, I remember telling people about it and just kind of like seeing like what their energy was. Definitely felt a lot of loneliness like in the scene. And then I came out with the second special, a lot of loneliness, on the other end.
How does this translate to the ego that you was talking about? Because I almost go back to what you said. Is this such a cowboy story where you're on, desperate saddles that everybody is trying to basically follow their own thing, and the support is, what's it like? Because you just indicated the egos. How bad is the egos in this field?
I think it's, I've met some comics outside Indianapolis, right, too, and especially like through World Series of Comedy. And there does seem, I don't know, I'm not going to explain this well, I can tell. So I met a comic that was offended that I didn't know who they were. You see what I'm saying? Like, I introduced myself and I said, hi, I'm Val. And I reached around, he goes, well, you know who I am, right? And I go, no, I don't. No, you aren't. And it's not like,
who were they?
well, I'm not
Chris
gonna
Rock.
Call,
It was Chris
call
Rock.
anybody out. I hate to do that. And so, and I'm a comedy nerd, right? So I did feel bad that I didn't know who they were. But then later on, and I'm like, what a set on that guy to just assume that everybody knows who they are, and he just didn't even continue the conversation with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they didn't know who he was, he just literally like wandered away. Now at the same time, you meet comedians that will come up to you and be like, they give you great advice, and they say, I want you to meet this person. They're a great booker, and you need to meet them and whatever. So it's really this mixed bag of people. And I think when you go from the large comedy world in the U.S., you bring that down to Indianapolis, you may have that same mix. I find a lot of the comedians here, they have good intent, right? Like, they want you to do well. It's not a competition where, like, if you do well, I'm not gonna get it. It's not pie, right? Like, we all have our part. But I think that can be sometimes you can have an interaction that's off, I would say.
How important is it for you guys to navigate or get to know your crowd? Let me explain to you why I said this. I like comedy, and I pretty much am in the front row because I like the support and so forth. And there was one comedian, I won't give her name, she's well known, and it was during the winter in Indianapolis. It gets cold, and we went to this event, front row seats, and she was funny, but she really wasn't that funny, which was surprising, but I still support. And I was waiting on her to do almost like D.L. Hughley does. You know what I mean? Okay, you pay an extra $20 or $30 to do a greet and meet. You know what I mean? D.L. was really good with his. You know, he allowed us to present him with, you know, books or, you know, I had a clothing line, so I gave him some shirts. He was real connected. I felt, wow, this was worth the time and the money, you know, the meet and greet part. But there was the other lady that came. I figured she would do the same. She got off the stage and she never came back. So I went to the manager at Helium and I said, look, man, you know, I'm nobody big, but I'm like, I'm paying for the ticket. Hey, I'm Andre The Beast Crayton. You know, can you ask her to come out and, you know, take a picture? Because I'm sitting there waiting. And, you know, she comes out and, well, her husband comes out. So I said, well, who are you? He was like, well, I'm her husband. I was like, dude, I'm like, is she coming out to take a picture or blah, blah, blah? You know, she went back there and started eating fried chicken. How well are you guys engaged? Because I think if I'm paying money to see you and you want to be known or whatever, you know, engage in your crowd. What's your taking on that?
I think it comes down to like crowd expectations at the same time too. So then you're a guy that's like coming front row. It's like, hey, you know, I want to be right in front of the action and everything.
Well, there was other people there that wanted to meet and greet with her too, and it's just like she just like the cartoon exit stage left and.
Did you pay for DL Hughley like meet and greet?
Yeah.
Well, I'd say because like meet and greet like is kind of like I feel like that's kind of a new thing. Like I don't see there's not a lot of comics that will stay after and like talk to them. But the ones that do,
it was the best experience because not only did I get to meet DL, but we actually talked. I was good friends with Tammy Pescatelli. Went to her wedding, and we had something in common because he knew her. And it just, for even that brief moment, was special to me. You know what I mean? I got my money's worth. I got to meet him. I shared a moment. He knew a person. It just was like totally different. So I figured, okay, well, this lady's on the same category as he is. But it was like, she did her thing and left. I'm like, you know, excuse my French, what the fuck?
I mean, I can only say, I wish that I had that problem. That there were fans waiting for me to see.
Snaps to that,
It's just not where I'm at right now. I'm thrilled that there are people.
Don't you think if you guys allow that kind of setting, like what DL said, sometimes it just, you know, you don't reinvent the wheel.
No.
I mean, he did it. I mean, so if the egos is so high, why not create a greet and meet so people can know you and support you?
I'm thrilled to meet the audience after a show. Absolutely thrilled because I'm stunned that they came to see me. You know, honestly, I'm every time, and it's like I was like, you guys paid money to be here. I did a show where it shocked me that people paid $20 to be there because that sounds like a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
I was so thrilled to stick around and talk to people, and so it would never, like I said, if I was ever big like Joe Coy or Ali Wong, I would still hope that I'm sure they'd get a thrill. You know, I think it's just different for everybody. But right now, where I'm at now, I'm just so excited. The best group of people I met was up at Fort Wayne. And at the beginning of the show, it looked like we weren't going to have that many people in the audience. But then this entire biker gang, they just decided one day, oh, we're going to go see a comedy show tonight. And so suddenly, the whole half of the audience was this biker gang. And at the end of the show, they wanted pictures with every single one of us. It was me and Kevin and Stephen Riley. And I was like, look at us. We're taking pictures with a biker gang.
How did it make you feel, though?
I loved it, you know. Yeah. It was a great show, and then getting the chance to meet them and hearing, like, oh, I needed a laugh today, or I really needed to hear that perspective today. It's like kind of what it's all about.
No, well, I've said for a while, my least favorite part of comedy is that I don't have enough time to talk with people after. So then I've done like a couple specials. I've done like bunch of shows, but you invite people out, and it's people that you know usually. It's like your friends, your family, and then afterwards you have let's say 10, 15 people waiting. I would talk to each and every single one of them for 30 minutes about anything they wanted to talk about, but I don't have that time. So then, like you're saying, somebody went off and was hiding in the back or anything. I feel like I would just want to go out and say thank you to everybody, but I never get enough time with the people that I invite. I don't know.
Yeah.
My last question before we wrap up: what would you what advice, both of you guys, would you give individuals that are trying to get into this line of work?
You know, I'm not a pro on stage. I have so much more to go. Absolutely. And to learn. And I learn a lot. And I think what I try to do is I try to be a pro everywhere else that I can be. Like, you know, be nice to everybody, give them feedback if they ask, give them support, go to their shows, be on time, be respectful. Those are the things that I can control and be a pro at now, even though I may not be as funny as I can be, as funny as I'm going to be in 10 years from now.
Right.
But at least I can be good at everything else. And that's my biggest advice is learn the business, learn the secret rules to comedy by asking and watching other comedians and kind of following those little unspoken rules, and you'll learn so much more, I think. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say kindness goes like such a long way, at least in like my realm. If you can be kind and, you know, listen to people's sets and like support your community, that is huge. But the biggest thing I think is comparison is the biggest thief of joy. If you're looking at your neighbor next door and you see how many shows they've got, they're posting a shows, they've got all this, and you're saying, hey, I should be doing that, you are supposed to go out on.
How can the viewers reach you?
Viewers can reach me at Facebook, Stratton Smith, and then on Instagram at WeirdStrat.
How can the viewers reach
Yep.
you, Val?
I'm a val.werner, WERNER.comedy at all social medias.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.